Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us to today's webinar on machine learning and AI brought to you by Asaf and Matt. We're going to be talking here also about Logz.io's anomaly detection for App 360. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the live chat right here.
Thanks, Isabella. And yeah, thanks again to everybody for joining us. We know the response has been good to this topic, so that's a great indicator that this is something that people are really interested in. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. If you look at what's being written in the press and by the analysts, and I think what all the vendors and everybody's talking about, AI in particular is a really hot topic. I'm Matt. I lead product marketing here at Logz.io. Been here about 3 years. And I've been around for a little while, as you can tell by this gray that I've now got in my beard. I like to use these pictures, which I guess are kind of dated us off. I'm guilty of that. Although you still look young.
Yeah, hey, and I'm Asaf. I'm a co-founder and CTO of Logz.io, and happy to be here. Yeah, I do look younger in this picture.
Like we can always be young in these pictures. Um, so I think hopefully by the abstract and the great response, we'll touch on some salient topics that you find relatable here today around AI and ML, and again, of course, reflect that back to some of the things that we're doing here at Logz.io. I think there's a lot to talk about, just about what the market is leaning toward around this, and how everybody's really amped up about it. We'll walk through that, walk through some of the what we think are really interesting aspects as it relates to observability today, trying to make this as practical as possible, really about how can we use AI today in our work, and where the immediate benefits are in addition to vision. We'll talk a bit about anomaly detection for App 360, which is our latest product innovation, bringing AI-based capabilities to the Open 360 platform. And Saf will run a bit of a demo, and we can talk a little bit even about roadmap. As Isabella, Autumn is our VP of marketing. Sorry, Isabella, I gave you a promotion there. As Isabella noted, if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat. We'd love to get those. We'll round them up at the end and try to get through as many of those as possible. So, I couldn't help myself. If anybody took the time to read the bio on that introductory slide, and I suspect many of you didn't, I was a journalist for a number of years before I got into this world of marketing, which I've been doing for some time now. But I thought it was interesting just to do a kind of like finger in the air here about how much hype there is around AI, and in particular, not just AI, but directly as it relates to observability, DevOps, AI ops. And I can tell you, this is a thing that I do oftentimes for these webinars. And it often, sometimes it takes a few minutes to find the right sort of supporting content and headlines here. I can tell you, it took me about 5 minutes to make the slide this time, right? And a lot of that was trying to make it visually consumable, because there is just so much being written and said, so much hype. And that's everything from, AI ops, what is that? How's that going to work? To integration of generative AI, which is something we've already delved into here at Logz.io about a year ago. And then really, I think how it's, how observability and cloud computing are, really an area that are rife for opportunity. And I think no presentation around AI is complete unless you have a picture of a brain with some circuit breakers behind it, right? I worked in cyber for many years, and if you didn't have a picture of somebody with a hoodie on looking into their laptop, your presentation was incomplete. So I had to put that here in the middle. I saw this movie with my son. We see a lot of movies. The creator. If I've got no relative connection to it other than as a watcher of films and fan of science fiction. But I thought it was actually a pretty good movie. It was because, and here's what I liked about it. Since like the 2000 Space Odyssey movies of many, many moons ago, we've had this notion of like how AI could get out of control and take over the world. This movie was interesting. Slight spoiler alert, but not really. Like, there's some empathy for the AI in this movie, and the notion that it's sort of this partnership and balance between we, the human creators of this, and then also the things that we build in this realm, to work together to sort of get the best outcome. Which I think was a little bit different. It's a little more nuanced than what we've usually seen. So even this is, I guess, a build on sort of where we've been and where we're going with the whole notion of how this impacts our work and our lives. But, I think one of the, taking a step back, no spoiler here, right? I think the idea is there's a lot of value, right? As you'll see, and there is risk. And, we're in this iterative stage where nobody's quite sure exactly how this is going to turn out. It's neither all good nor all bad. And there's a lot of R&D going on. So to me, that's maybe the most exciting time to talk about something. But this is where we see the real overlap in terms of how these emerging capabilities are going to directly impact observability. And once again, I will not bore you by reading all the words on the page here, but what's in terms of what's bolded, right? Everything that we do these days, certainly from a Logz.io perspective and talking to end users, our customers, driving down complexity is the number one task, right? There's so much complexity in our environments and even in our observability tool sets, right? And the data, right? How do we cut through that to get to better outcomes faster? And the data volume is, maybe the first issue. We've seen a lot of effort and work around observability pipelines and pipeline analytics. We have ours. We have our data optimization hub, right? That's one of the key areas that I think we're going to see AI and ML make a big difference today. And then you have, the larger goal of speeding troubleshooting and addressing the talent gap. And then when you look at things like, supervised machine learning and some of the, cutting edge pattern based AI things that people are putting into their systems, it's really getting the deep, unique contextual knowledge of your architecture to start making smarter recommendations or cutting through the data to do all this stuff. But I've said a lot here. Saf, you just got back from a trip. I know you're, scattering across Europe, talking to a lot of different customers. What were you hearing? What are their thoughts and goals around this topic of AI?
Sorry, I was on mute. So thanks, Matt. I think it was a
I have to automate
good
that.
question. Uh, I think if we drop a little bit about the promise and of I want the AI to be able to tell me exactly what's wrong in my environment, and we're getting it a little bit more into reality. I think it's no secret that environments are getting more and more complex, and expertise is getting more and more scarce. So the ability to kind of like improve our ability to interact with the data is the key thing that people are expecting. The ability to address the huge data volumes and understand which data is relevant and which data is less relevant. I think it's definitely something that AI can help with. Definitely driving down the complexity of looking at this kind of like broad sets of data and understanding what's going on. This is something that AI is good at. So we leave Anomaly for a side for a second because I think we're going to talk about it more in a minute. The way people are expecting to use AI is I want you to highlight areas for me that I should focus on. Out of all the data that I have, show me what I should look at right now. It's not about identifying the exact problem that I'm observing, but it's more about show me what should I focus on right now. Um, Help me sift through the data, help me search the data in an easier way. And it's not just a searching language, but it's also let me know which data is relevant, which data is less relevant. Help me with my knowledge gap of understanding how to run a query, how to build a visualization that is meaningful to me. What else can I look at? And basically help me as a DevOps manager, as a VP engineering, also help me hire people that are competent, but I want them to enter my world in a quicker way. So even though you're an experienced DevOps person entering a new company, just the level of knowledge into their domain, into how their system is set up, help me do that, help me achieve that, help a new DevOps person I'm hiring to the team, a new developer, get a hold of everything that's going on with the data and understand where to look for, understand how to connect the data in a much easier and simpler way. So this is kind of like I think where we see and where I see AI in the world happening.
Yeah, and these bullets were actually gleaned largely from a conversation I had with an industry analyst. I don't have the licensing to his report right now, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, it wasn't cut and paste, but the concepts were the same concepts, and Yeah, I mean, as it turns out, to your point, while some people might be looking at this as is this a threat or an opportunity to replace some people? The reality is, I think what everybody's really talking about these days is making our human workloads, more manageable, right? And making, as you mentioned, all of our various peoples across different levels of expertise work better and smarter and faster. Um, so Gartner's in the same boat, right? And if anything, it tends to be ourselves, the vendors, and the industry analysts who get super hyped about something like AI ops or machine learning and observability, and get out there in front of the world and talk it up to the point where it starts to lose meaning. But I think this is a great report. This came out last year. Again, it's directly related to observability and APM best practices. And there was a subsection in here in this key considerations when choosing APM and observability platforms about the potential of AI, right? And calling out that some of the marking out there is maybe a little bit beyond the pale of what's truly accomplishable today. But that there are some things like anomaly detection, which we'll talk about today, that are helpful, right? We launched from a Logz.io perspective, generative AI integration, which deepened our crowdsourced analytics, right? And providing better contextual information to folks as they're doing investigation last year, and got really good response around that. And then we're continuing to experiment with LLMs and how we help people do querying faster and a more powerful way, and analytics to reduce MTTR. So this is the Gartner perspective, and I'm grateful for their realistic viewpoint here that it's not, we're not yet into the world of AI ops that is a push button fix it. Although, who knows, maybe we'll get there. And here's a little bit of background, shifting here to the Logz.io perspective. Right. And I'd love to hear your vision, right? I mean, I could read through all the points, some of which I've already mentioned, right? I've always, but right before I joined this company 3 years ago, that's when cognitive insights came to pass. And I thought that was just such a cool thing, crowdsourcing intelligence from available repositories to give people doing analysis and troubleshooting contextual data. Like, this is a commonly known problem. Here's the information that you need to fix it based on, a proven knowledge base of not just people in your company, but people posting things to Stack Overflow, right? Which is an awesome way to do things, right? Because you're saving people. That's the manual work that somebody might have done to deduce what they should do there, and you're putting it in the platform so they can get to that information quickly. And I mentioned the generative AI integration, but hey, you're the guy who's been here and been a product visionary for a few good years here, Asaf. What was your vision all along for machine learning and AI, and how's that evolved over time?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So even when we started a company, AI and machine learning was kind of like the highlight of what we wanted to do. It's not just about data collection. It's not just about analyzing logs, but how can we augment it with AI and machine learning? And the first thing we released really, really early on is the cognitive insights. And the cognitive insight, what it does essentially is we're scanning the internet, all the known forums like GitHub and Stack Overflow and Server Fault and other different forum discussion around issues that can be found in log files, and we're indexing all of it and creating like the largest kind of like databases of the largest live database of known issues in observability. And we're continuously searching all these issues, all the data that you're experiencing. So this is like having the entire world also always looking for issues, kind of like in the code that you have. Obviously, everything is it's running by machine learning and getting kind of like inspiration from all these different forums and all discussions that are happening. When we started on, we really wanted to make sure that the AI that we're developing is really targeted towards observability. Obviously, we started as a log analytics, but it's really targeted towards observability and not just a generic black box that you can download from the internet and does anomaly detection and stuff like that. So this is kind of like why we went with the cognitive insights and developing it into what we did. We have other things that we've developed over the years, And kind of like one of them is a generative AI, the ability to basically ask the data some questions and convert the data into the search syntax that we're using. We've developed alert recommendations, so we are actually scanning the way every organization is troubleshooting its alerts. And whenever a new alert is happening, we are recommending what would be the first dashboard, the first query, the first visualization to look at as a way to basically speed up the response, speed up the mean time to resolution, to recovery. And this is what we did with the alert recommendation. What we're releasing right now is going to anomaly detection. We finally found a good home for anomaly detection. And that home is around the App 360, around the business view, around the service overview. And the reason that this is a good fit for anomaly detection is because these services should act in a pretty normal, predictable way, as opposed to the rest of the environments, like the overall cloud infrastructure, Kubernetes clusters, containers. They don't act in a predictable way. They usually act in a non-predictable way, and very hard to kind of like associate anomalies with problems. But when you look at the service level, and if you are adhering to some service level objectives, then an anomaly there is definitely have a very high degree of correlation to a real problem. So this is what we're releasing. We released recently. Part of the App 360 is anomaly detection for the service overview.
And forgive the as a car motorcycle. I know you're into planes, right? Vehicle obsessed person. My thought here was, we've built the locomotive, right? As AI and ML are sort of leaving the station, we've created the components for a nice sort of a locomotive to help us get there. And Asaf noted, and by getting there, I mean, to some sincere value for our users today, right? App 360, we think, is a really powerful approach to what we call application observability. And this is what we think is the modern footprint for what's traditionally been known as APM. Because there's a lot of advantages. If you're doing observability correctly, some of the things that we've been doing for years in the APM realm, try to say that 3 times quickly, are, potentially not quite as critical, right? Things like real user monitoring and session monitoring and even synthetics. If you're getting the information from all of your telemetry in a meaningful way that enables you to do troubleshooting faster, more proactively, there's an obvious impact on the need to do some of those things that, again, we've done a lot in APM and spent a lot of money on, right? And so this is, again, where we feel like App 360 combined with anomaly detection is a really powerful approach. And Asaf, I know as we talk to analysts, as we talk to users, this notion of using all of this to become more SLO driven has become sort of a hot button issue that I know you've been talking to folks about a lot. What do you see as the real sort of level up +1 on bringing AI and ML together with application observability and sort of a more proactive observability approach?
Yeah, I think in the process that we're doing both with our customers and with analysts is kind of like trying to elevate the discussion from monitoring to observability. And one of the things we realized a few years ago that collecting logs, metrics, and tracing doesn't make your company have observability. It just means you're collecting logs, metrics, and traces. And a lot of it has to do with the way you actually observe your environment. And observing your environment starts with the business goals and the service level objective that each one of the engineering team or the product team is committing to the business. And some of them are relevant, and some of them are less relevant, and some of them are super critical. And the ability to prioritize it as an organization is kind of like where observability begins, the ability to set goals, the ability to set SLOs. Otherwise, you just have monitoring. You just have a lot of alerts, and you're getting into the alert fatigue, and then you have to actually purchase solutions that are going to deal with the alert fatigue, which is a problem that is kind of like self-created and unnecessary. So the way we are looking at it and the way we're working with organizations, like, will help you set up logs, metric, and traces as an underlying data sources, or help you build observability on top of it, which means that as a business owner, I can look at how my business is operating on top of the infrastructure. And now I can overlay this with anomaly detection because I want to know that my business is operating in a way that is normal, and any abnormal behavior in my business is something for me to look at and something for me to examine, as opposed to I see an anomaly in my CPU, I see an anomaly in my memory consumption, I see an anomaly in restarts of the pod. These are all very noisy and completely unnecessary because today's infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure and the Kubernetes cluster and the architecture is set to address these behaviors. And what's left for organization is to actually kind of like create a way for overlaying the business goals on top of the infrastructure and understanding the impact of that infrastructure on the business goals. And this is kind of like where anomaly detection comes into play into what we do and works together with the SLO.
Yeah. Again, I think it's everything that we've been talking about from, an application observability standpoint with App 360, right? It's the notion of being able to apply the mindset that we've undertaken with something like APM and doing it in a far more targeted, proactive, and meaningful way. And again, we launched App 360 at the end of 2023. We're getting a lot of great traction. We feel like, again, another great solution or use case for bringing together all the telemetry data, right? Logs, metrics, and traces in a really unified way. That's quite potent. So again, and we've done things like, we added some capabilities around monitoring it by deployment and things like that, which we think make it more meaningful as anomaly detection does as well. So with that, I think we've done a lot of talking. Asaf, do you want to take the controls here and do a little bit of a demo on App 360 and maybe show some of the sort of AI or ML driven benefits that we're able to offer today?
Sounds good. Share my screen. So I'll just go through like a very quick demo and a presentation of what we do in App 360. So this is the service map and the service overview of Map 360 of App 360, excuse me. And what you see here is kind of like an automatically created map of all of my microservices, how they interact with each other, and what is my commitment as I engage with them. And you can see that the services here, I can click on them, I can see what's going on. I can drill down into each one of them. Oh, sorry. I can drill down into each one of them and understand kind of like the request rate, the latency, everything that's happening on the service as well. We're correlating both the tracing information, we're correlating all the metric information, we're correlating all the logs that are relevant for this microservice. So we give you like one place that you can actually look at what's going on with that microservice and understand whether it's behaving in a normal or an abnormal way. The way to do it here is you can set up an anomaly, and we've tried to do a lot to simplify things, and there is a very sophisticated algorithm behind it. I can click the service. I can see that I want to have anomalies on all of my services, all the operation, or I want to be able to select certain operation that I care about doing here. In this case, I'm just going to go with all the operation. I can set kind of like what is my sensitivity as a business owner for this and the criticality of it. Obviously, if the sensitivity is high, I'm going to get alerted more often. If the sensitivity is low, I'm going to get alerted less often, and I can select kind of like where these things go. So really kind of like simplifying setting up an anomaly detector literally with a click of a button. You don't have to select literally anything. You just need to define it. You need to set the sensitivity of it, what's the endpoint and where it's going to go. And this is kind of like what happens. So making it really, really simple to use and really highlighting it. Also, if I did have an anomalies on my environment, I would be able to see the same way that you see here. This does not have any anomaly. This would highlight and this would like be marked as red if there was an anomaly going on right now. So The other thing we did here is make sure that this is very contextual. So I'm not just getting alerts and seeing what are all the anomalies that I'm seeing. Now I'm looking at the service, and maybe it doesn't matter for me if I'm responsible for the front end service that there is an anomaly in the quote service. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I can decide whether this is something I want to look at. And again, creating an overview of all the services that are contributing to what I'm doing right now and understanding anomalies that are happening on them. This is kind of like what we wanted to achieve with the App 360 and the ability to drill down and the ability to understand how Anomaly is going to work on that. So that was just like a very quick demonstration, and obviously we have some kind of like a broader demonstration of what we do.
Cool. And worth noting, right? App 360 is not something that it's not a product per se. If you're sending us your logs, metric, and trace data, you have access to this, right? This platform capability that we've created for everybody who's using Logz.io today. Again, the key source there is you have to be sending your traces, right, to get that. I mean, again, we were looking at topology there. That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, we're doing a lot of work to try to bring together these unified solutions or use cases for, really pure observability standpoint. And again, we're not done from, certainly I talked a lot about sort of marrying the practicality of what can be accomplished today with what we're doing and what's available. But there is a lot more to be done, and our own product roadmap is evolving very quickly. And, these are a couple of the things that we're focused on right now, including a form of an early warning system to help lower your MTTR based on alerts and AI-based monitoring. And again, that's a bit of a build, although a discrete technology compared to anomaly detection, but certainly working in the same area. And then this whole notion of an observability assistant, right? Something that can sort of look over your shoulder and make recommendations on how to, accelerate, improve your workflows. That's another thing that we're working on. Asaf, what are your thoughts on what we see here in our roadmap for AI and ML?
Yeah, I think you kind of like hit all the points. And I think we see two different dimensions that we're going to leverage AI with. One of them is the assistant to me as a person who's creating the observability and using the system. How quickly can I create alert? How quickly can I create a dashboard? How quickly can I find out how to integrate a new component into my system? So this is an observability assistant. Basically, we're going to leverage AI, and we're already doing it in some part to help DevOps engineer, developer using the system achieve what they want to do in a simpler way. So it's simplifying the ability to interact with the system. And the second thing is an early warning system. And again, this is a learning system of understanding based on what's happening in the environment, how my system is behaving in a normal way. Can I highlight events and things that are acting in an abnormal way? And all of it starts from the business overview. It's not starting from the infrastructure itself. So I really care less about my CPU consumption, memory consumption, network consumption, how many pods are allocated, how they're interacting with other pods. What I care about is there an anomaly in my service level objectives? And if there is, now I do care about the anomalies of the underlying infrastructure component, and I do care about what changed, and I care about these things. But as a general, we always want to start from the business, and this is kind of like the early warning system to say, I have an anomaly right now in my shopping cart service or in my credit card processing service. And now I want to be able to drill down and say this anomaly is actually being triggered by an anomaly that's happening in my database, or it's an anomaly happening in my cloud infrastructure, or someone deployed something in my cluster and created this anomaly. But it all starts from the business, and this is kind of like where we have the early warning system. So again, two different views of how AI and machine learning can help DevOps engineers achieve their work in a simpler and easier way.
So I know we've covered a lot of ground here relatively quickly. Hopefully, this was an interesting touch point for you in terms of looking at, what's ongoing today in the field and what's pragmatic, and certainly trying to show you a little bit more about what Logz.io has been up to and what we plan to do. I know I did see at least one or two questions trickle through the chat interface as we were talking here. Isabella, can you tee up any of those questions that came through?
Yeah, of course. Let me pull them up right now. All right. So the first question that we have here is, I'm hearing and reading a lot about AI ops, even internally from management. Clearly, this is another buzzword, or is it? Where does automation make sense here?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and there's a whole section of AI ops that is meant to how do I reduce the level of noise that I'm getting from my infrastructure. Our view into it, and this is what we're trying to work with our customers, the cloud environments, the Kubernetes clusters, the containers, they already come with a pre-built automation for scalability, for addressing issues like restarts, for bad version upgrades. All of this is already part of the setup of a Kubernetes cluster on top of a cloud environment. So these things should happen without the need of intervention of using an AI ops kind of like to overlay on top of it. So it kind of like in our view, this is redundant to kind of like an existing solution. And we do realize that there is a lot of legacy code that is being written in an environment that do not support this, do not support the Kubernetes cluster, does not support the ability to auto-scale it with the cloud environment. And this is a good use for kind of like for these type of AI option solutions.
Yeah, and it is a buzzword, right? I think the people that we work with who use this word admit that it's a buzzword. I think the best advice is what do if somebody internally is asking you what's your AI ops strategy or do we have an AI ops program, it's what are the outcomes, right? Like what are, is this something, that you are really focused on KPIs, or is this just a vague notion of something that we should be doing? So as always, it's what are the goals and outcomes? That's again, top of the head thought from me, just having listened to a lot of folks who are, I think, struggling to put some meaning behind the buzzword that's getting thrown around. Isabella, what else? Any other questions that came through?
Yep. So we have another question here. It says, how does this detection for observability really differ from APM? How is this more timely than what we've traditionally seen from an APM alerting standpoint based on threshold?
Saf, do
Yeah,
you want to take a stab at
yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. I'll take that. I think obviously you can set up thresholds, but we all know that the reality is it doesn't work in like a flat line. There is seasonality within the day, there is seasonality within the week, there is seasonality within the year. And the ability to learn the environment is when you set a threshold, you're ready for like the worst case scenario where it's completely out of the norm. But I want to be able to capture the small or the smallest kind of like deviation from the norm. And in kind of like processes that are really, really critical to me. So if I am an e-commerce company and I have a shopping cart, I want to know that my latency on the shopping cart increases. I don't need to wait for, and obviously it changes by the number of people on the website, by the interaction I have with the outside world. I want to be able to know exactly how it is, and I want to take into account the seasonality that is happening in my environment, and this is the way to do it as opposed to putting thresholds. In some cases, or maybe most cases, putting threshold is enough. But for my critical services, I want to be as tight as possible with our ability to alert on them.
Yeah, and this gets into that whole world of unknown unknowns, right? The traditional approach of trying to pinpoint where exactly it is that you have to look, which is great. Sure, you certainly want to do that. And anomaly detection for App 360, we talk a lot about, focusing on the services that matter most to your business, right? But, the idea of these very complex and dynamic Kubernetes-driven environments, there's so much complexity, you might not know where to look, right? And change happens constantly, and being able to pinpoint that as it occurs is obviously critical. So. Anything else, Isabella? I'm sure we're getting to the end here, but any other questions?
Yeah, so I just saw a third one come through. So they asked, what do you think ultimately is the role of AI in helping people do more work faster? Obviously, better alerts or more context for troubleshooting is great. but the load is still on the human worker to analyze and respond. When do you think we really see things speed up?
Good question.
Yes, it's another good question. I think we talked about it, two dimensions of AI. One of them is I want to be alerted on. Obviously, that's going to create more noise for me. Hopefully, I'm going to enable that on my most critical application, and it's going to be limited to the alerts that I'm having, and I'm going to have a very good system that can understand seasonality and only alert me whenever it's needed. The other aspect of AI is how do I improve my usability of the solution? There is so much data being collected, logs, metrics, traces, hundreds, if not thousands of microservices running, multi-cloud, multi-AZ, different solution, different types of Kubernetes, where it's native or it's Fargate or it's a EKS or it's a combination of the three of them. All of this creates just a sheer level of complexity of how do I get to the data? And this is where using AI to simplify my access, saying, hey, I want to query it, but I want to query it in plain English. I want to interact with my data in plain English because I don't remember the syntax and I don't remember which region it sits on and how is the region called. Is it called region or region name? Or how is the field being mapped in my environment? So the ability to simplify my interactions with the data is the aspect of AI that the second aspect of AI that we're developing.
Yeah, what he said. And I guess my answer is less scientific. It's hopefully soon. But I do know that, where we've made efforts around things like, pipeline analytics and helping people potentially, in some cases have the amount of data that they're sending to the platform. We're already seeing some obvious significant acceleration of people's precision, right? And again, really just focusing on what matters. I think that's really sort of where we are in the iterative process here. So Isabella, unless there's anything else, I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah, nope, those were all the questions that came through. But of course, feel free to submit anything to us and reach out to Logz.io if anything else arises.
Thanks everybody for being here today. Asaf, thanks as always. It's fun.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.